That right there is a major significant protest that just happened in Italy, with its dock workers promising to, quote, block everything if they don't get their rights back to make their own decisions with their own bodies. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski of WeAreChange.org, and we got a lot of important information to get into, especially with a surprising article from The Guardian. A lot of people are getting fired, and international trade looks like it will be severely affected very soon. We'll tell you what you need to know about, as well as the latest corruption expose with the Pandora Papers and, of course, members of the U.S. Congress. Now, just getting right into it, because there's so much to talk about today, we're also finding out today that the Daily Mail actually put in a Freedom of Information request specifically surrounding the communications between British and American government health officials, and this is what they got in response: mostly totally censored, blacked out pages with little bits of information about how many of the scientists' minds were changed about the origin of this global sickness after one phone call. What happened during this one phone call? Well, the government doesn't want you to know about it, since they're censoring it and any emails related to it. And you would think, when you want the public to trust you the most, you would give them some accountability, you would give them some transparency, and it's fair to say we haven't had a lot of that at all. We do, in fact, have a lot of corrupted institutions, to the point where TikTokers are literally making their own careers, creating their own businesses off of just copying what members of Congress do in the stock market. Yes, there's a slurry of young entrepreneurs on TikTok right now that are predominantly using House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's stock trading disclosures as, quote, investment opportunities for the general public, even going as far as to describe Nancy Pelosi as the, quote, market's biggest whale, or describing her as the, quote, queen of investing, since, you know, Nancy Pelosi accumulated a wealth of $100 million from the stock market on companies which she regulates. You would think that would be a conflict of interest there. It's also important to note that these are the same people that want more control of your life, that want more intervention of government in your existence, and also want to make health decisions for you, while of course asking you to trust them and to give up your, quote, individual rights to make your own decisions for, quote, the greater good, as those statements were issued recently by Dr. Fauci on national television. And I'm sorry, but people giving up individual rights or the rights to make their own decisions is a ridiculous idea, as much as it is dangerous, coming from, of course, government bureaucrats. Now, we have to be careful if we question some of this prevailing logic, this narrative, this agenda. People are, of course, obfuscated and attacked for doing so, like Dr. Simon Gold, who said, quote, if you speak out against special interests, continuing on, they, quote, allocate resources to smear your reputation and attack your infrastructure. If you counter the narrative with facts, you're banned from social media and silence. We are living in Orwellian times. It's also important to note that we have seen a slurry of attacks against people like Russell Brand that have recently been using their platforms for open, honest discussions, and a large swath of the U.S. mainstream media is now calling him mentally unwell, alt-right, and, quote, desperate for cash, which predominantly, from our perspective, from what we're seeing, is all baseless lies. He literally called for an open discussion here to happen. An open and honest, rational discussion that we try to facilitate on this channel, and that, of course, we also get attacked for trying to do. Again, critical thinking, informed consent, looking at the research, looking at the data, listening to the medical professionals, hearing out certain debates is something that is integral in having an open, honest, and free society. We get rid of those things, we could get rid of our freedoms very easily. And already, there's a lot of things we can't even discuss here on this platform, no matter how honestly we try to do so. And that's why, hey, that's why we started LukeUncensored.com, our very own platform where we get to discuss whatever we want, as freely as we want, unfiltered, with a bent of trying to share information that could help people the most. We have a lot of members. We're growing. We're expanding. There's going to be a lot of new things introduced to this platform where it's not just going to be a video platform. We got a lot of very important projects upcoming just specifically on LukeUncensored.com. Your participation is your investment in our future. And if you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? Sign up right now on LukeUncensored.com. The link is down in the description below. Click it and learn more. Now, I think it's very fair to say if you've been paying attention to the official narrative, the official story, there's a lot of confusing things going on that are very hard to understand and don't actually make sense. Very interestingly, The Guardian decided to pen a piece explaining some of this confusion, admitting something that a lot of government health officials have not been openly really talking about, that even if you comply and get whatever procedure the authorities want you to get, that you could still be negatively affected here. And that this is not all to be blamed on individuals who didn't take this procedure. This to me is actually more of a logical, understanding approach, which, let's be honest here, is extremely rare in the U.S. mainstream media, and actually surprising to see in The Guardian. TheBlaze.com has a different perspective, highlighting how some of the preliminary early data suggests that the countries, the places with the highest rates of sickness are some of the places with the highest rates of compliance with this procedure. And when you look at the data here, they do make a very compelling case. What's actually going on here, I do not know. I am not a medical professional. But when we look at the data doesn't lie in many instances here. Now, there definitely at least should be a bigger investigation here. There should be somewhat of a conversation started, and so far there isn't. There is, though, a lot of people still continuing to be fired and discriminated against for not taking this procedure, even including members of the Pope's Swiss Guard that are resigning because of mandates implemented by the Pope against them. And it's not just the Pope's personal security guards that are out of work here, as of course there have been massive layoffs, not just in this country, but all over the world, of people being fired for not jumping through the government hoops. This, of course, will have a global economic impact, along with the lockdowns, which yet the world has still not felt the full ramifications of, and with supplies, resources, and labor tightening up during winter seasons naturally, along with many businesses struggling from lockdowns that the government's imposed on them previously, along now with the government forcing them to lay off their staff members. This, along with the huge backlog of container ships all throughout the United States not being able to commence commerce because of government restrictions. I think it's fair to say that there are definitely more troubling times ahead, especially when it comes to the American supply chain and the world's supply chain, as many professional economists are worried about some very serious times ahead. There's a lot of other people trying to warn about natural disasters, and those could happen at any moment as well. That could only exacerbate this current problem that we're all dealing with right now, mainly not because of a sickness, but because of failed government policies that, according to the preliminary data, have absolutely done nothing at all, except for create a larger financial calamity that many economic experts say is looming for the world. Now, as there's some real clear economic problems in almost everyday life for the average human being, the stock market bubble is the largest that it ever was in recorded human history, while of course the biggest politicians in charge of regulating it profit off of it, as many of the super powerful rich people from Shakira to Tony Blair are avoiding all of it, including tax liabilities, are hiding all of their wealth in secret offshore companies. While, of course, you get footed the bill, your tax liability goes up, your payments go up, the regulations and controls and hoops you have to jump through from the government goes up, and you're stuck there holding the bag as the politicians take their turn swindling you at almost every turn they could get in their socialism for the rich policies that clearly benefit them while screwing you over. There is also a line of thinking by some people online that there will be a deliberate crash of this financial system in order to bring in a more centralized, trackable, digital monetary system that will, of course, get rid of cash and be implemented with domestic passport systems. And, in my opinion, the chances of that happening are pretty high. If you think I'm wrong, which I am sometimes, let me know why in the comment section below. But if you found what I said important, it's imperative that you share this video, because with you doing that, that's the only way that these videos get out there to the general public. And because you guys still do that, this is why I love you guys. If you disliked the video, click dislike. If you liked it, like it. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Stay tuned for a lot more here on wearechange.org. Oh yeah, and another video later on today on LukeUncensored.com.